Daf Chof Tes Amud Aleph will begin Chof Ches Amud Beis, 3 lines from the bottom. Rabbi Yirmiyah, Rabbi Yirmiyah went out to the villages. They asked Meshayla, Ma'ul Arav v'Pum Lachim. Can you make an Erev with Pulin Lachim, with beans that are moist? He didn't have the answer. When he came to the base Medrash, they told him, he said, this is what Rav Yana said, it's mutter, you're allowed to use these beans for the Erev. But Kama, what is the shear? How many? A fistful, a handful. You can make an Erev with raw beets. I said, could you really? He said, raw beets can kill a healthy person. It's dangerous. So you can't make an Erev with something which is dangerous to the person. More answers. Where do we say that it's Mesukin, where it's dangerous? How bashal? That's only when it's partially cooked. If it's fully cooked, then it's not harmful, and you could use it for an Erev. The Rishonim say that, meaning, and if it's raw, also you can use it for an Erev. Where can you not use it for Erev? Only where it's partially cooked. Ika Damri, another version is Omar of Amnuna, Ein Marav Mitar Mechayim. You cannot make an Erev with raw beets. The Omar of Chista, Silka Chaya, Katel Gavra Chaya. The raw beets can kill a healthy person. But we see that people do eat it and they don't die from it. Our answer is where did he say that it's dangerous? It's only when it's partially cooked. Otherwise, it's not. He said that tavshel beets actually, in a certain way, are helpful. It's it's good for the heart and for the eyes, and certainly for the intestines. But where is it beneficial? Where is it helpful? That's only if it's completely cooked. If it's on the pot and it makes a sound, toch, I mean it's really cooked up and it's cooked very, very thoroughly, it makes that kind of a sound. When it's thoroughly cooked, then it's helpful. But if it's partially cooked, it's dangerous. Rava said, I am like Ben Azai in the Shukim Teveri that can answer any question. So he said he had that Atzachos Hadas at that time, and he said, ask me any kasha, ask me a question. He asked him, Tapuchim become? He said, what is the shear for apples for an Erev? How many apples do you need for an Erev? He asked him, can you use apples for an Erev? So it seems to be a puzzling question over here, because apples are food. Why wouldn't you be able to use apples for an Erev? So Taisus learns that this is only l'chadet as a talmidim. It didn't mean it literally. But the Taisus Rosh says what it means is we're talking about hard apples. We're not talking about apples that are eaten regularly. So he asked them, so can we not use it? Vatanan, we learned in the Mishnah, all the foods combine together, if they're tomei, to passel the person if he eats a chatzi pras of them. If he eats that shear of them, a chatzi pras, then they're matama the person. Now, normally a person, midaraisa person rather, is not mekabel tumah, it's only mekabel tumah from an avatuma. If he eats oichlamar tmeim, he does not become tomim b'daraisa. But the Rabban were goizer that if a person eats that amount, if he eats the chatzi pras of oichlam tmeim, he has a tumah d'Rabbana. So all the different foods that are tomei combined together, if there's a chatzi pras of it, it will make the person tomei. And then he's not allowed to eat truma. So all of the foods are mistavin, umimazon shtei sudas le'erev, and they also combine for the shear of 2 sudas for an erev. Ukebeya l'tamatu masaychlim, and they also combine together that if you have the size of them of a bay of an egg, then they have the tumasaychlim. They have the tumah that the foods can be metame, that if they have a share of a beya, then they're mitzvah for the share of a tumas eichlim. So, what is the kasha over here? How do we see from here that apples, that you can use apples for an eruv? Well, perhaps you'll say because it says kol ha'oichlim and all of the foods combined for an eruv, but that's not a proof. Because even if you're going to say and apples are food, but even though it says a klal, but you can't learn from that. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's all inclusive, and even where it says chutz. So over here, just because it says that all of the foods are mistar for an eruv, it doesn't necessarily mean that that includes apples. Ella, the Gemara says, what's the proof? Mishum diktani, it says mazon shtei sudas la'eruv, because it says that mazon shtei sudas la'eruv v'kabeil l'tam tumas eichlim. They combine for the two sudas of eruv, and together it says it. The smichus of it, the juxtaposition of that is with the beil l'tam tumas eichlim. So v'hani nami b'nei tumas eichlim. No, apples are food. They have tumas eichlim, and it's said together with tumas eichlim the eruv. So that means the halachas are the same. The apples are mistar for tumas eichlim. They're also mistar for an eruv. So you can use apples for an eruv. V'kama, what is the shiur? Amar Rav Nachman tebun b'kav. You need a kav of apples for an eruv. That's the shiur that you need. Meisel asks you a kasha, Reb Shimon Elazar Omer, he says, uchla tavlan v'lityerak, if you have an uchla, is an eighth of a lug of tavlan of spices, and v'litra, and you have a litra of yerek, if you have a lug of yerakos. So if that is the shear, then if you have that shear of asora egoizim, and if you have 10 nuts v'chamisha farsakin, and 5 peaches of shnei reminement, 2 pomegranates v'eser ge'echad, that is the shear. So for these types of fruit, that is the shear, that, and this is talking in the context of Meiser Ani, when the Ani comes, so you can't give him a minimal amount, you have to give him a choshev amount. This is the minimum shiurim that you give to the ani when he comes. V'amar gursik bar dor mishmei darav menashe bar yismei darav menashe bar shigvuli mishmei darav, and he said, and then v'chein la'eruv, and he said these shiurim also apply to eruv. Therefore, what's the kasha? V'hani namelav v'kifarsakin. Well, apples should be like peaches. They're both fruit. It should be like peaches. So therefore, you should say that 5 should be enough. Mora says, no, you can't compare apples and peaches because hani chashiva, hani le chashiva. They're not, the peaches are more chashiv. Therefore, you say that 5 would be enough. But in apples, it's not so chashiv. So therefore, you need a larger shear. You need a shear of a cow. Amar Yosef, surely more little Menashe Bar Shkevuli, he said that Rabbi Shalom should forgive him because he said what Rav said in the name of on this brisa, that he said that it applies that in the Chechein LaEruv, and also just like Meiser Ani, it applies to Eruv. He said it referring to this brisa, but Rabbi Shalom should have Rachmim on him because Anam Risa Nehalamas Nisan. Because I told it to him in reference to a Mishnah, not to that brisa. V'hu amra brisa, and he said it in reference to that brisa. Which Mishnah does not, ein peitzim la'ani v'gerin, you do not give less to the ani that comes. To give him meiser ani, less than mechatzi kav chitim, half a kav of chitim, v'kav seir, and a kav of seir, of barley. Rav Meir, mechatzi kav seir, Rav Meir says it's enough a half a kav of barley. V'kav mechatzi kusmin, v'kav gregoris, oimana devela, and you need a kav and a half, a kav of spelt, and a kav of dried figs, and a mona of pressed figs. Rav Akiva oimer pras. Rav Akiva says that you need the shear is a pras which is a half a mona. V'chatzi lug yain, and a half a lug of wine. A half a lug of wine is the shear. Rav Akiva Omer Ravias, he says, no, not a half, a quarter, a Ravias a lug. or Raviyah Shemen, and Raviyah Salug of oil. And Rav Kiva Omer Shminis, he says an eighth. Ushar Kol Peres and other fruit. Amar of Shmuel Kadesh Yimkem V'Yikhabem Mozan Shtei Sudas. The amount that if you sold them, you could buy the food for 2 sudas. V'Amar and on this Mishnah, V'Amar Rav V'chein le'eruv. So the Rav said it in context of this Mishnah. He didn't say it on the previous brisa. Why is it such an afkamina? Why is it something that requires forgiveness? What's the difference? What's the mila of this Mishnah over the previous brisa? They don't seem to be seiser each other. If you'll say, because in the brisa it says tavlin, now there it's talking about maisrani. But to say that Rav says v'chein le'eruv, well, the tavlin lavanei ochlin, you don't eat spices, so why would that be a kosher for an eruv? So, but still, in the Mishnah, what's the mile of the Mishnah? The Mishnah also says wheat and barley, and you don't eat that without preparing it, without cooking it. You don't eat it. And it's also not b'nei achil. So, therefore, it doesn't mean that it's all-inclusive. V'chein le'erev, where it's applicable, where it's items that can be readily eaten. Items that can't be readily eaten, it doesn't apply. So it only applies where they're readily eaten. So what's the difference between the Mishnah and the Brisa? So one says chitim and sayrim, and the other one says the Brisa says spices. What's the difference? I'll tell you, because it says a half a lug of yain. A half a lug of wine is what's needed. And Rav, he said that your ma'arav shtei reviyas. Shtei reviyas is 2 quarters, is a chatzi lug. So midabina kuli hai. Now this is something unusual, because normally you'd say a reviyas yain is a davar chashav. Normally we talk about wine, it's a reviyas. A reviyas is a davar chashav. So over here we see midabina kuli hai. It's something that is larger than what would be expected. Shema mina ki amarav v'chein le'eruv amas nisan koama. Shema mina. So it must be that Rav, when he said v'chein le'eruv, he was referring to the Mishnah that says this year of 2 reviyasin, that must be that Rav, he's saying it in reference to this Mishnah which mentions 2 reviyasin. Must be that he said it in that context. Shema mina. That yes, in Echanami we do see that Rav must have said it on this Mishnah, where it says beferish that it's 2 reviyasin, and he applies that to Erev as well. So it says that all the foods combined for the share of 2 sudas for an Erev. Well, he thought, say you can combine it if you have 2 different types of food. If you have 1 suda from one type of food and another complete suda from another different food, you can combine 2 foods, 1 suda completely from one and 1 from the other. But Amarle Rabba, no, he says even for a half, a third, a quarter. Meaning, you don't have to have a complete suda from one meal. You can have a little bit of this type and a little bit of that type and combine them different types. 3 of these things to make up a meal, 4 of these things to make up another meal. You don't need a complete meal from one type of food. Rav said that for an Erev, you can be marv if you have 2 reviyas and of yain. Do you need such a large share? He said the wine is that the amount that you eat with it. You dip bread in it, you soak bread in it. That's the amount of wine you need. And the amount of vinegar is that used as a dip. Vinegar is used as a dip, and the amount that's used as a dip for 2 meals. And olives and onions, the amount that is needed to eat with them for 2 sudas, with the amount that you would eat with bread. With 2 sudas, if you were eating with bread, these onions and olives, the amount that would be eaten in 2 meals. You see that the wine is much less. You see that the wine that is needed is that it's the yain kedei le'echel boy, the amount that you would soak bread, that bread would be soaked in that wine. More answer is over there it's talking about cooked wine. Or cooked wine which they don't drink. They don't use it for a drink. They use it to dip bread into it. There the shear is a smaller shear. But Rav is talking about wine that is not cooked, wine that is used to drink. Over there you need the larger shear, you need 2 revius. The amount of vinegar is that you use as a dip. So he says that the amount is, if you have 2 meals, the meals are vegetables, the amount of vinegar that you would use for a dip for those 2 meals. So the Maharsha explains that he doesn't mean to say that it's dafka dip for vegetables as opposed to meat. But Marshal Rashi explained before, he said that it's vinegar that's used as a dip for meat. So Maharsha explains it doesn't mean to say that it's only dip for vegetables and not meat. Meaning his point is that it's common for vegetables to be used as a side dish, not as an entire meal. So he means to say is don't think that it's the amount of vinegar that when vegetables are a side dish, the amount of vinegar that you would use as a dip for vegetables which are a side dish. No, you need a bigger share. It's the amount of vinegar that would be used as a dip if you have 2 meals consisting entirely of vegetables. It doesn't mean that the vegetables that are the entire meal is the vegetables. It means vegetables which are a side dish. And the amount of vegetables that you use as a side dish, the amount of vinegar that will be used to dip vegetables that are a side dish for 2 meals, that's the amount of vinegar, which is, of course, a smaller share. Is olives and onions, the amount that would be eaten if you were eating a meal with bread, how much of them that you would eat with a meal of 2 sudas. Can you make an eruv with onions? One time Rav Meir made Shabbos in the city Diska, and a person came, he said to him, he said, I made an eruv so that I'll be able to go and travel to the city Tivin. And Rav Meir said, it's not a valid eruv. And he made him stay within his Dalet Amos. He couldn't move from his Dalet Amos. So you see that you cannot use onions for an eruv. More answers like kasha. How about olim? How being moyas? Where do we say that onions are not edible or not good to eat, and therefore they're not good for an eruv? That's with the leaves of them. But in the bulbs of the onion, they are considered a machal, and you could use it as an eruv. So a person ate the onion, and the next day they found him that he didn't wake up. He was nifter. You don't ask the question, what did he die from? It's certainly from the onions. But disqualified. That's where he ate the olive. But in the bulbs, that's not the case. So therefore, you cannot make an eruv from the alin, but you could from the imoyas. And the Gemara qualifies that, however, uba alin nami lo yamran, even by the leaves. It's only said that when we say it's dangerous, deloy afsel zeres, it's only where that didn't grow a zeres. A zeres, the distance between the thumb and the pinky. It's only if it didn't grow to that size. But if it grew to the size of a zeres, then that's not the case. It's not harmful. Now, even where it didn't grow to that size, and we say it's harmful, that's only that if you didn't drink beer. But if you drank beer with it, then that's not the case. It's not harmful. A person should not eat the onions because of the poison in it. There was a Maisa where he ate half an onion, and Mamel, he ate half of the poison with it. And he was critically ill, and he was about to die. And his friends were Mispalel and Mavakish Rachmim, and he survived because he was needed. The tzibur needed him. He was needed for the tzibur, so the tefillos were moil. But otherwise, he would have put himself in a situation. He put himself in a situation where he was critically ill, and he would have been nifter. So you see how dangerous that it is.
you.